Now let's begin this lesson by opening up the moreplacing.indd document. You'll find this in Lesson 2 of Part 2 of your project files. When you have that document open, go ahead and scroll down to page 2 if you're not seeing what I'm seeing here. And we're going to explore how to get your vector content from Adobe Illustrator into your layouts inside of Adobe InDesign. Now there are several ways to approach this, and we'll look at all of the different options. The first thing I'm going to do is switch over to Adobe Illustrator. So I'm going to press Alt-Tab, that would be Command-Tab on the Mac, and I'm going to switch to Illustrator where I have the file berlinerlogosilver.ai open. Now you may or may not have Illustrator installed. That's okay. You actually don't need to do this part with me. You can sit back and watch these next couple of steps. If you do want to follow along and you have Illustrator installed, you can find this Illustrator file inside your Lesson 2 Part 2 Project Files folder. Now to clarify the distinction between Photoshop files and Illustrator files, remember that Illustrator files are primarily vector artwork. So for example, if I grab the zoom tool here inside of Illustrator and zoom in a little bit, or maybe a lot, we're almost at about 6400% right now. Even though we're at 6400% zoom, the edge of that artwork is crisp and clean. So it will scale infinitely and always print at high quality. So I'm going to press Control 0 or Command 0 on the Mac. That'll just fit the artwork in the window. And using the black selection tool, we just want to click on this artwork. And you can see that even though this was originally created from pieces of a couple of different letter forms, it's been converted to outlines, and we could actually manipulate each individual point to customize the shape. We're not going to do that in Illustrator right now, but what we will do is copy this artwork. So just go to the Edit menu and choose Edit, Copy. Control C on Windows, Command C on the Mac. And now we're going to jump back to InDesign, so press Alt-Tab on Windows or Command-Tab on the Mac. We'll switch back here to InDesign, and we're now going to choose Edit, Paste. That's just pasting the vector paths from Illustrator to InDesign. Now let's drag this over onto the pasteboard a little bit, grab the zoom tool, and zoom in. It's especially helpful to zoom in like on the angled corner here, because we can see that even at a very high magnification here at 4000%, we still have that nice crisp vector edge. So we've retained the vector aspect of this content, and if we zoom out, let's press Control 2 on Windows or Command 2 on the Mac to zoom to 200%. And we can scroll around here a little bit with this great piece of vector artwork. Right now, we're manipulating this content with the black arrow tool, and that just allows us to move and scale it. However, if we grab the white arrow tool, that is the direct selection tool, and hover over the different points on this artwork, we can see that we can actually manipulate this artwork just as if we were in Illustrator. So for example, if I click on this point, I can pull that out. I can pull out, oops, I missed. I can pull out this point, I can grab this handle, and change these curves. Now this flexibility to edit your vector shapes inside of InDesign is pretty cool. However, there is a trade-off. That is that if you update this artwork back in Illustrator, there's no link here. We've copied and pasted this artwork, but if we open up the links palette, there's no link to the Illustrator file. So if the Illustrator file gets updated, nothing changes here. If you'd like that dependency, it would be better to place this artwork, and that's what we'll look at in the next step. So grab your black arrow tool, make sure the artwork is selected, go ahead and just press the delete key to delete that artwork, and press Control 0 or Command 0 on the Mac to fit the document view into the window. Now we'll look at what I would argue is the preferred way to place Illustrator content, and that is just using the File Place command. So choose File, Place, and here we're in our links folder inside of Lesson 2, Part 2 of the project files, and I'm going to grab Berliner Logo Silver. Go ahead, select that file, and click Open. And here we have that nice preview inside our place cursor, and I'll drop that down here kind of on the side of the page. And wow, that's pretty big. We want to scale that down so that it fits nice and tiny up here at the top. Now, I happen to know that 15% works really well. So go ahead up to the control panel, grab the scale value field there, and type in 15. Make sure the link icon here is active, and press enter or return. So we've scaled that artwork down. We'll move that up here at the top of the page. And now with our zoom tool, we can zoom in on just that little bit of the page that shows the logo and the menu. Now, if we grab this artwork with a direct selection tool, that is the white arrow tool, what can we do with it? We can scale it, and we can move it, but we cannot change the points. So we don't have that same level of editability as if we had copied from Illustrator. However, if this artwork changes back in the Illustrator file, we can see here in our links panel that any updates from Illustrator will be reflected here inside our InDesign layout. Now let me fill you in on a couple of other details related to placing and copying and pasting these file formats. When you copy and paste from Illustrator, there is actually a threshold. It's about 500 points. So this artwork was pretty simple, maybe just 10, 15, or 20 different points. If your artwork had a lot of points, say more than 500, and you copy and paste over to InDesign, you are not going to get all the editability of those points. InDesign will prefer the PDF content that's on your clipboard, and it'll drop that down as an uneditable object. It would just get to the point where it was a little overwhelming. Now, we've already placed native Photoshop files. Here we're placing native Illustrator files. We can also place a whole bunch of other file formats, including raw PostScript, Photoshop duotones, tritones, quadtones, DCS1, DCS2, so many other file formats I can't even remember the whole list. The point is, InDesign is very flexible. We can place legacy file formats, native file formats. The options are wide open. Now, one common file format that I get a lot of questions about, folks ask, can I place my camera raw images or my DNG files? Those are my digital negatives. These are files that are coming from high-end digital SLR cameras, and for better or for worse, the answer is no. Because the reality is there are a lot of decisions to be made with a raw file. For example, what will the final resolution be? What will the color space be? How will the file be processed? So InDesign does not let you place those raw and digital negative files. Go ahead and process those first with Photoshop or Bridge or Photoshop Lightroom, and then place those final files here inside your InDesign layout.